Hi, we're going to read chapter 2 of Clementine and the Family Meeting. And if you remember from the last time, we lost 18 the rat and we're trying to find him. Do you think we're going to find him? We have to think about that. Maybe they will and maybe they won't. We'll have to see. Chapter 2. Usually when I get home, things get better, but not today. "Hi, honey," my mom said when I came in the door. "Where's your hat?" My hat? I felt on top of my head. My hat! I love my hat. My grandmother knit it out of my favorite colors, which are all of them, and sent it to me on my birthday. When I put it on, I could always feel her soft hands on my head. "Where is my hat?" I wailed. "I know I had it when I was leaving." "Well then, it's either at school or on the bus. Remember to get it tomorrow. You must be freezing though. How about if we fix some hot chocolate?" When I went over to the refrigerator to get the milk out, I saw our family meeting sign again. A worried feeling spread into exactly the place that had opened up for the hot chocolate. I pointed to the sign. "What's on the agenda?" I asked. Agenda is Latin for a list of stuff to talk about. So when you say it, you're saving your mouth a lot of work. Plus, you sound smart. My mom took the jug from me and sniffed it, and then nodded at it with her good job smile. And if she was proud of our milk for not turning sour, as if she was proud of our milk for not turning sour, she looked back at me. "What? Oh, the agenda?" She poured some milk into a saucepan on the stove. "You'll find out tonight. Your brother's asleep on the couch. Would you go wake him, please?" I said, "Sure," with a giant smile, in case what was on the agenda was help out more cheerfully. As I went by, I picked my wet mittens off the floor and hung them over the radiator, in case it was "don't be messy with your winter clothes." And when I woke Acorn Squash, I sat down and said hello to his feet along with him, loud enough for my mom to hear, in case it was "be more patient with your brother." And here she is looking at that family meeting sign. My mom set 3 mugs and a bowl of almonds on the kitchen table, and we all sat at our places. Right away, my brother started to tell about going sledding with Mitchell on Sunday, which is a story we have heard 300 times already. "What do we have to talk about tonight?" I tried again when he took a breath. Then I said, "Please pass the almonds. Excuse me, thank you," in case it was better table manners. "The meeting's tonight," my mother said. "You'll have to wait until then to find out." I heaved such a deep sigh into my mug that my hot chocolate sloshed. Waiting is my hardest thing, especially for family meetings, because even though my parents say they are about things we have to talk about over as a family, I have noticed that they're usually about something I am doing wrong. If my father calls a meeting, it's usually about his tools, about how he needs to know where they are because of his work. And so it's important to put them back when you borrow them. Even though it's a family meeting, he looks right at me when he's explaining this. Then he says, "Oh, never mind. I forgot that I let your Uncle Frank use those vice grips last week. Sorry, Clementine." Okay, fine. It only happened that way once. The other times, I get up and dig around until under my bed until I find the tool my father must have dropped when he leaned over to say goodnight to me the night before. When my mother calls a family meeting, it's usually because she thinks my brother and I are eating too much junk food. She talks about nutrition for a while and says we have to feed our bodies well. And my father says, "Right. If I had a Rolls Royce, I sure wouldn't put cheap gas in the tank. Turnip and I feel so good about being the Rolls Royce of kids that we get up and pretend to throw away our gum. While we're up, we check on the candy we keep hidden in the Play-Doh bin. And then we come back and say we feel a lot healthier now. Thanks. For the rest of the meeting, Squash pretends he's a car. No matter who's calling the meeting, I make sure to remind everybody of what a great idea it would be if our family got a gorilla. That's my agenda. I looked around the table. My mother and my brother were just sitting there drinking hot chocolate, crunching almonds, and laughing as if the family meeting sign was still back in the junk drawer where it belongs. The worried feeling crawled through my whole body like worms. So I said, Has Uncle Frank borrowed any of Dad's tools lately? Not that I know of, Mom said. I wiped off my chocolate mustache with my napkin and took some more almonds from the bowl. We sure are eating healthy these days. We're doing pretty well, Mom agreed. Then she collected our empty mugs, as if that was the end of that. My brother went off to play in the living room, and I slumped over onto the table. What's the matter? My mom asked, patting my back. Everything, I sighed. First, 18 is missing. 18? My nervous breakdown had made my mouth too tired to talk, so I pulled out my science project report and handed it over. My mother read it out loud. Our class is testing different things that might make a rat learn better. They are called factors. Each team chose a different factor to test. For example, Lily and Maria are playing music for their rat while it practices the maze. Willie and Boris Morris put a television show on. That's not such a hot idea because Willie and Boris ends up watching the show instead of their rat. Plus, lots of times the show is about things that might scare a rat, like cats. There sure are a lot of cats on television. Waylon and Clementine decided to find out if eating snacks would help a rat learn. Because we both think that eating snacks helps us when we're when we're trying to learn things. 18's doing great learning the maze. The only problem is that with so many treats, he's getting kind of fat. It's hard for him to squeeze through some of the tunnels. At the end, we will test all the rats against each other, and then we'll know. What a wonderful report, my mother said. I tried to lift my head from the table, but it was too tired. Waylon wrote it, I admitted. I only did the part about Willie and Boris. Well, it sounds like a good project, she said. Not without a rat, it won't. Just then my father walked in, and suddenly my nervous breakdown was over. Oh, wow, I said, jumping up. My father was wearing his new tool belt. It was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in the whole world. It was rugged looking, but made of soft, bendy leather, the color of butterscotch pudding, and covered with loops and rings and hooks and snaps. It looked like a holster for a cowboy with lots of guns. Can I try it on, please? My father poured himself a mug of hot chocolate and shook his head sadly, as though he was thinking of the most tragic tragedy in the world. Sorry, sport. This tool belt was handed down through 14 generations of the men in my family. It's a priceless heirloom. Mostly, I think my dad's jokes are funny. Sometimes, though, they are N-O-T. Not. Dad, we got it yesterday at Hardware Depot. Oh, right, my dad said. He drank some cocoa and then complained about how much work he had to do. My beeper's been going crazy all afternoon. Winter, the boiler's thumping, the pump's off on the 7th floor, and Mrs. Jacoby's windows are iced shut. I'll be lucky if I'm back for dinner. Don't forget the meeting tonight, my mom said. I slumped back on my chair. Just tell me what I did wrong, I sighed. Say what the meeting's about, and I'll promise to do better. My mom sat down next to me. Oh, honey, you didn't do anything wrong. Nothing at all. Is that what you've been thinking? No, the meeting's for, something else. I lifted my head and really? Eyed her. Really, she smiled. My dad was smiling too. I'm not in trouble? I asked them. And the meeting's not about a problem? Here is the cool tool belt that Dad got. Nope, my dad said. The meeting's about a good thing, in fact. A good surprise. Sorry. Yikes. A good surprise. Something we've been waiting for a long time. I felt so relieved. I decided to try again. Then, could I try your tool belt on when you get back? Not a chance. When I get back, I'm going to have to lock it in a safe place, my dad said. You see, this tool belt is a priceless treasure from the Ming Dynasty. It's irreplaceable. If anything happened to it, Dad, I said, it came from Hardware Depot. You could just buy another. Oh, right, he said. But then he went off to see about Mrs. Jacoby's frozen windows, muttering about winter. One way that I am like my fruit name is that I have lots of sections. Right now, a couple of Clementine sections were worrying about 18. A few Clementine sections were thinking about that tool belt, about how great it would be to try it on. A few of them were mad at my dad for thinking it was funny not to share it. But most of my sections were so happy to find out that I wasn't in trouble. So you need to think about how we might find 18 and what the meeting will be about.